Hello, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this wonderful Wednesday, guys. Happy Valentine's Day to those of you guys that celebrate Valentine's Day. I hope you guys have been having an amazing day so far. Um, this topic today, we're going to be talking about remembering to always love yourself more. So, I want to welcome you guys to the Mental Wellness Sanctuary. I am your host, Frances McMillan, licensed mental wellness coach and counselor here in Jacksonville, Florida. Um, Today, guys, so I just wanted to give you guys just a little tips and tools, right? So the first things first, just wanted to make sure that you guys were aware that, of course, we're going to continue to go live at 7 o'clock instead of 7:30 p.m. I know that's typically the time that I used to go live, but starting in the month of February and going forward, I will be going live at 7 p.m. So do make that mental shift, guys. Also, if you know of anybody that might be in need of qualified supervision, um, counseling services, coaching services, or consulting services, I am definitely going to place my link inside of the comment section for those of you who might be interested in getting those services from me. If you know of somebody that could use the services, be sure to pass that along. To other people, because guess what? Everybody can use some services. I also wanted to say be on the lookout, guys, for my next mental wellness sanctuary workshop. I am in the process of putting all of that together now, right? So, with that being said, I just wanted to make sure that I let you guys to know that next workshop is going to be in the month of March, you guys. So get ready to mark your calendars. So that way you guys are going to be able to actually participate if you desire. I'd love to have you guys come on. The last one was a huge success, so I wanted to say thank you again to those who came out and partnered with me. I know that they got some really good golden nuggets, and so because of that, guess what? I'm prayerful that going through the next season that you guys will be able to get some more golden nuggets from this next workshop coming up in March. So do look out for the advertisement for that. This will be more than likely towards the end of March. Um, so do look out for that. But without further ado, guys, I do want to go ahead and just jump into um, this topic for today. I know, thinking back on a previous season of my life and as working with other people in the field of counseling and coaching, I realized that there were certain seasons of my life where I did not always love myself more or love myself enough. I'm also coming into the realization, guys, that there are a lot of us who struggle with just loving ourselves in general, right? And so, because of that, sometimes we will find ourselves in certain situations, personally and even sometimes professionally, guys, where we're not appreciated, where we're not putting ourselves first, where we're not taking care of ourselves the best way. I'm also realizing, as being a counselor, that a lot of people are even struggling with the mere fact to know that they are enough to be worthy of loving themselves more or different things like that. So I wanted to make sure that through this live today that I am uplifting you guys to learn that it's so very, very important for us to make sure that we're finding ourselves in this place and in this position where we are loving ourselves more, where we are valuing ourselves more, and we're valuing more of what it is that we have to offer. We're valuing those gifts that God has given us. We are just loving on ourselves more because I've found that when we do love on ourselves more, things around us change. We attract differently. We experience life differently. We see things through a different lens when we learn how to love ourselves more and pay more attention to ourselves, even in the instance of pouring more into ourselves. Culture and society has put us directly in this place where we give so much, we pour so much, and to other people. We are always constantly, um, what's the word? We're constantly, giving of ourselves to other things and other people, to a place where we have not much or little to nothing left for ourselves. And so, because of that, we may not be functioning at our optimal space. We may not be projecting out what it is that we desire to show others. I'll give you an example about that and what I mean by that. For those of us that might be parents or godparents or an aunt or just anybody that has loved ones that we would go to the edges of the earth for, when we're not taking the best care of ourselves, y'all, we typically end up giving those that we love the most and care about the most the not great versions of ourselves. They get whatever's left over at the end of the day. Like I said, we all have titles, we all have roles, we all have responsibilities that we uh, are being charged to steward over. So, some of us are moms and dads, and we're aunts and uncles, we're, sons and daughters. We have all these roles, and there's responsibilities, and there's things that come with that. And so, if we don't find it in our place or our space, right, to be able to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves so that we can function in this more optimal space, then we're not going to give our best versions in anything that we do, whether that's professionally, whether that's as a parent with parent child relationships, whether that's in business partnerships, and even, when it comes to, romantic relationships. Like, if you're not taking care of yourself, you're not going to give what you should be giving, right? So, with that being said, y'all, I wanted to tap into, of course, I always have homework and different things like that for you guys. But I wanted to tap into this because I want, again, for you guys to understand the importance of loving yourself more. When we love ourselves more, again, we attract better. When we learn to love ourselves more, our tolerance and patience for things that we once tolerated and had didn't have patience or had patience for, when we loved ourselves a little less or we didn't care as much, all of that begins to shift. All of that begins to change around you, and you find yourself really getting to this place where you find yourself flourishing more. You find that your business partnerships and your relationships and different things like that, they start to um, develop more. It's like this, how can I put it, it's almost like this snowball effect that begins to happen. And when we love ourselves more, even the things that we choose to entertain, the people that we choose to entertain, the places that we choose to find ourselves in versus the places that we don't choose to find ourselves in, it starts to shift. And when we love and care about ourselves a little bit more, or, just more, I'm pretty sure some of us can go back and look at those seasons. For some of us that are doing that work, you can go back and look at seasons where you didn't. I can always use myself as an example because I can't speak for anybody else, right? But I can remember being in certain seasons where my self care wasn't the best, where I did not always acknowledge my worth and my value, and just the things that were going on in my life and around me at the time that was a direct reflection of how I saw myself, the care and concern that I gave myself. Um, it showed up in my parenting, it showed up in my intimate relationships. At the time, I did not necessarily have this business, my business and all right now, but just in my work relationships, the quality of work that I had, like, it's just things that I can go back now and look at when I did not love and appreciate myself as much, what I dealt with and tolerated at that season of my life, right? So I'm just merely bringing up the fact once I get into my questions, because I always have questions for you guys that I want you to consider. I want you to think about those times where, if you can acknowledge it, if you can remember it. And remember, y'all, this is an awareness thing, this is an honest reflection, because I also learned that possibly in that season, um, especially when we talk about like parent child, I realized that maybe in a previous season, right, where I may not have been built up to move towards more confidence in self, loving myself more, different things like that, how I, as a parent, I may not have been doing the same thing for my kids. You know what I'm saying? That's just an example to use. And so as I began to take more care of myself, as I began to grow and mature in those areas, I directly began to make sure that I prioritized helping my children learn and understand the same thing, knowing and understand the importance of loving yourself more, having that confidence and different things like that, and even offering ways to help meet them where they are so that they can build that growth and that confidence and all of that. So I'm just merely pointing out, guys, a few things that I have learned and observed as a counselor, so the professional aspect of it, but also the personal aspect of it. And I can see how the fruit of my life, um, the people that have come into my life, and even those that have exited my life, I can see the pattern of how that all shifted and changed and all of that. The more I started to um, love to learn to love and appreciate myself more, y'all. So I'm gonna go ahead and get into these questions and all. Of course, this comes from my affirmation card set. Um, so if you guys are interested in any of those products, whether it's the journal, whether it's the affirmation cards or the book, you can definitely find it on my website, and I will add that to the comment section so that you guys are able to find me. If not, you can always send me a message via Messenger or WhatsApp. All of that information um, is available to you guys to be able to reach me. So, yes, let's go ahead and get into it, y'all. So it says, always remember to love yourself more. The scriptural point that I have, that I feel like God has given me in regards to this, is Ephesians chapter 2, verse 10. And this one comes from the NIV version. Um, so it says, for we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do. So meditate on that scripture, guys. Again, that's Ephesians chapter 2, verse 10. We have to know that we are, when I was meditating on it, it let me know that we are all fearfully and wonderfully made, and each one of us has been created to do something great, to be something marvelous, to do something wonderful in the earth and for God's kingdom. And it also let me know, right, that for me personally, I wasn't necessarily getting there. You weren't able to see some of that fruit from my life because I didn't always believe that. And even if I did, I didn't have enough to propel me forward confidently and me being able to carry out certain things, stay the course, do whatever, because I struggled in that area many, many moons ago. Um, and that's the same thing for some of my clients, and that's the same thing when it comes to um, our business ventures and what we choose to leap out and try to do or not do. I know by me talking about loving yourself more, but when I mentioned that thing about being enough, sometimes we don't feel like we are worthy or that we are enough to demand these things, to occupy time and space in a particular way, to receive a pure love, or to be able to know what it's like to be genuinely loved and cared for with no strings attached, or just different things. That's just some stuff I'm throwing out there, but it's not the total gist of it, but it is definitely a good bit of it. And so if you don't feel worthy, if you don't feel like you're enough, when it's time to jump, when it's time to leap, when it's time to move forward, to step out on faith, to trust, all of these things are interconnected in some kind of way. And I recognized it personally for myself, that in seasons where I, again, did not always love myself more, it showed up collectively across my life. I could go back and look at every one of those areas and see where, if I didn't believe in myself or love myself enough or was confident in a particular place or whatever, that I was only going to step out so far. I was only going to move so far. I was only going to go, you know what I'm saying? So I just wanted to put that out there. Um, so the card reads, once we understand God's love for us, we can begin to understand how to love ourselves more. So, no matter what has taken place in our lives, no matter what we have done, no matter our backgrounds, our history, our upbringings, and even some of the things that we've done or will do, um, that we're still God's masterpieces, and that we're unique and we're fearfully and wonderfully made. And with that, we can stand on business, y'all, that it's very vitally important for us to learn to love yourself more. Love yourself more than a situation that's no longer serving you. Love yourself more to walk away from connections that are not serving you. Love yourself more to walk away from things that are draining you, that serve you no purpose, that are keeping you in a stagnant place. Um, Learn to love yourself more, to walk away from survival mode, like we talked about last week, guys, and push yourself into a thriving space. Love yourself more because your life depends on it. Love yourself more because your children's and their children's life depends on your example of how to love yourself more. Um, as I continue to go forward, as I continue to counsel, as I continue to move forward in business, I'm understanding that I am totally, purely just a vessel. And what we do today and how we navigate life directly dominoes to those other aspects of our lives, whether that be our children, our spouses and significant others, our business partnership, our friendships, and even how we again view ourselves. So keep that in mind, y'all. Um, to love yourself more, to not stay in a place where God's pulling you to move out of or into. So that's just an example. So the first question, guys, that I am going to pose for you is simply this. The first question is, in what areas of your life have you not loved yourself more? This is really important, guys, because when you identify those areas that you have not always loved yourself more, I want you to pair that with, how can you identify, or what made you say, hey, this is an area where I did not love myself more? So, again, in what areas of your life have you not loved yourself more? And then once you identify that, what about that space, that area, says to you that you did not love yourself more? Because that awareness, that taking the scales from my eyes, like being able to see a situation for what it was, and to be able to acknowledge that this is my part in it, this is, this person's part in it, whatever the case may be, it allows us to build up from there. It allows us to change the foundation of that particular thing and reprogram a new foundation, so that we can find ourselves not operating in that space anymore. So that is, of course, y'all, the first question. I like to say, have your pen and paper. Even if I don't say it, y'all just know that pen and paper is always required in these sessions. Pen and paper is always required. The next question number 2 is, in what ways can you begin to love yourself more? Now, whatever it was that you put down for the first question, you should be able to take that and say, hey, this said to me that I did not love myself more, and this is why. So, if you were placed in that same situation or those areas of your life, what would loving yourself more look like? So that's something I want you to take in consideration. And it doesn't have to be in comparison to those particular areas, but it does need to coincide, because more than likely these areas are areas you're going to find yourself back in a particular space, whether it was a relationship, business partnership, friendship, parent-child relationship, whatever it is. And you're going to have to know what you need to do differently than what you did the very first time. Now, keep in mind, guys, I'm being a firm believer of grace and learning how to not operate from this place of perfection and different things like that. So just keep that in mind. Even though you may be aware of these things and all that, you may not always get it right, but give yourself grace and make sure that you're not trying to operate, relationships and business partnerships and everything from this place of perfection, because oftentimes when we're looking for something to be perfect, the right time, the right whatever, oftentimes it doesn't necessarily show up that way. And so we don't want to miss opportunities, guys. Um, so just keep that in mind. And then the very last question number 3 is, what do you need to heal from? And what do you need to forgive yourself for, so that you can implement more self love? The reason why this is important, guys, is because when there are things that have occurred in our lives, if they're traumatic in some sort or they cause a level of hurt and pain, sometimes when we don't process that effectively, what ends up happening is we end up finding ourselves to where we can't move forward because there's residual there. Let me say that. We don't move forward because there is residual there. And so because that residual is there, it puts us in this place, y'all, where um we're not open to really opening that up or processing it or working through it, like whatever the case may be, y'all. We have to make sure that we are working on our healing process, and healing comes in stages. Maybe we'll have a conversation about that um later on, not in this live, but maybe another live, about healing and that process, because it looks very different and it's in stages, y'all. And so sometimes I'll get clients that'll say, oh, I thought I had healed from this particular area. I thought that I was better now in this particular area, only for them to find themselves maybe triggered or something like that. And then there's a residual to it. And so sometimes some of us need to heal completely from a thing. Um, and some of us, even if we get to a particular space, sometimes we may have a residual. You may still have residual where you have made some growth and process progress towards your healing journey, but you still have some residual things that might be highlighted. And these highlights usually come up, y'all, when we're triggered by something or someone. It's not to say that you haven't progressed and that you haven't healed, but there still may be a little bit more work to do. And you typically know that you have healed from a place, usually, and this is not collectively across the board, when you have at least learned how to um, cope and manage to a place where it really doesn't disrupt your life, or how you do things or how you see things. It doesn't bother you anymore. For some of us, if something you can identify something that you need to work on or still process, because if you hear it, if you see the person's name, or if you see anything that resembles that particular situation and it causes inner turmoil, whatever it bothers your spirit, whatever it is, then more than likely there's something that, hey, says we need to pay a little bit more attention to this particular thing. So when it comes to that, what do you need to heal from? I really want you guys to take that in consideration, because a lot of times we're stuck and we're stagnant in places because we have not done our healing work, so that it makes room for what it is that we truly desire in life, what we feel like God has promised us, what we feel like we deserve, those types of things. Without that healing portion, y'all, I can't tell you how important that is. It's going to be really difficult for you to learn how to love yourself more, especially if you're somebody that had certain things happen to you as a child, abuse, neglect, different things like that. We have to work through those things. It's vitally important, guys. All right. And another thing could be not just what do you need to forgive yourself for or somebody else for, but like some of us are stuck because, or we don't love ourselves enough because we have done certain things or made certain mistakes in our lives. And don't get me wrong, we all have. And sometimes we hang on to that. And because we hang on to that, it kind of acts as a barrier. For some people, it's like, to give you a visual, for some people, it's like having your feet chained to the floor, when we have not forgiven ourselves for things that we have done, or we have not truly forgiven others. And so we have to be very cognizant, very mindful of the things that you may need to forgive yourself for. And again, this is where that grace comes in. And this is where, we're not perfect people. We are human, but we can't use that as an excuse. We have to be willing to do that work, y'all. So that's one thing to consider. This is like a three-part question. Um, because more than likely, when we get to the last half of this question, which is so that you can implement more self-love, more self-care, um, this helps like I said, it's all interconnected together. So when you heal from the things that have placed you in this particular space, right, where you're like, oh my gosh, you know we don't realize how much unhealed stuff, unforgiveness, how much space that takes up in our lives, how many things that blocks, um how it kind of sucks the fruit from our lives, um, when we have not learned the importance and have not started working on our healing process. So, if y'all take nothing else away from this live today, know that if you want to love yourself more, you want to show up differently, you want to love on your kids differently or more, whatever it is that you're going to have to make sure that you're healing through things. Something that somebody said a long time ago, it made me think about it like this. Um, some of us are dealing with things in our lives because those before us may or may not have done their healing work. They may not have um, taken the initiative to do certain things. And sometimes people just didn't know. Therapy and counseling and all these things like this have been around, but it's not nearly as prevalent as it is in these days. And so some of us are dealing with direct reflections of, what we may have experienced as children or young adults or whatever the case may be, from foremothers and forefathers. Some of those things that we're dealing with are from, our own choices and behaviors or whatever it is. But as I be as I go through this process personally, and what I try to get my clients to understand is that, whatever it is that you don't tackle definitely has the ability to fall into the laps of those coming up behind you. So healing helps you to be a parent that parents from a healed space and not a hurt space. Um, Healing through uh, spiritual issues, as far as like, being church hurt, just an example, helps you learn how to navigate and heal and operate spiritually in a different space. The same thing goes for if you've had bad business deals or business partnerships and things like that. Healing from those things so that you are not finding yourself chained to the floor with what happened, transpired, who showed up, who didn't show up, those kinds of things, y'all. So when you love yourself more and you understand certain things in your life more, um, being able to heal, being able to move forward, being able to disassociate yourself with places and people and spaces that do not help you learn how to love yourself more becomes easier. Because the more you learn to love you, the less you tolerate. The more you learn to love on you, the more you can be the example to love, to teach others how to love on themselves even the more. It may not be your kids, it could be coworkers, it could be your clients or your business partnerships, y'all. So just putting some stuff out there, just so that you guys can understand it. And so if you, you know, are going to love yourself more, I also want you to think about this last piece of it. What is that going to look like for you, loving yourself more? I can say it all day, but you have to learn what that's going to look like in order for you to learn to love yourself more. What is that going to look like for you? And of course, this is, like I said, again, an honest assessment. Who needs to stay? Who needs to go? What do you need to start doing or stop doing? You know, what places can you be in? What spaces you can't be in? All of those things. All of those things help us to determine the best way to go about this shift in mindset about learning how to love yourself more. All right, y'all. So, that is all that I have for you guys this evening. I want to say thank you for taking the time out to join me on Valentine's Day. I know a lot of people are probably out enjoying their loved ones and everything, but I felt like this is a very important topic to tap into, especially for those of us that are, desiring to see more growth and development and, things like that. If you want to move from this, like we talked about last week, this survival mode and moving into a more thriving space, loving yourself more is necessary. If you're wanting to be able to manage the trusting of your process, like we talked about the week before last week, all of this is a part of your process, y'all. So I wanted to again say thank you for joining me this evening. I pray that your day is blessed and has been blessed. Again, keep our lookout for in March, towards the end of March, for the next mental wellness workshop. That announcement will be coming out really soon on what that is. Also, if you know of somebody that needs qualified supervision for a registered licensed mental health counseling intern, I am able to do that as well. You can just forward them to my website. There's a link right here in the comment section that will allow you to be able to just click on that and schedule it. If you're interested in the affirmation cards, the books, the journals, there's also a link that's in the comment section that will allow you to be able to click directly to those products and be able to order them. I do have them on hand. Um, and so, lastly, if you know of anybody that needs coaching or consultation services, now my consultation services, and I may need to break this down a little bit more on every one of my lives, but I provide the personal coaching, but I also provide the business coaching, especially for those of you that are in the field of building your own mental health practice, or you're wanting to branch out on your own in that regards, or if you're looking to excel or build up your business or to start a business in childcare. I know about all things childcare. I know all about all things mental health when getting started with those areas, guys. So if you are in need of that and you want to set up a consultation with me in regards to that, you are definitely more than welcome to schedule a consultation with me and we can talk about whether or not I would be able to help you guys or not. So, again, thank you guys. We're going to be back here next week, Wednesday, right? Um, Let me give you guys a topic for next week, just in case you guys want to go ahead and prepare yourself to join your girl, because I love to have you guys here with me. Um, so, next week, we're going to be talking about the topic Nobody Compares to Me. I Am Enough. And this is just a little spin-off from this topic of conversation for today, but we're really going to highlight the spirit of comparison and how that really disrupts your process. It will keep you in a place of survival mode versus thriving. it will directly go against you learning how to love yourselves more. So catch it, y'all. If I change the topic, I'll definitely let you guys know. But for now, this is what I'll have for us this coming Wednesday at 7 p.m., y'all. So I will see you guys next time. Have a great evening, guys. Bye.